The sun rising gently over the vast, still land of Burkina Faso, slowly unveiling the secrets of a new day with a warm, golden glow. Its rays bathed the countryside in soft light, illuminating the ancient trees, the winding roads, and the quiet villages emerging from the shadows of night. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the sweet melodies of birds greeting the morning, each note a delicate promise of hope and renewal. On a smooth, newly paved road that cut through the heart of the countryside, a long convoy of sleek, black vehicles sped steadily toward the capital. This was no ordinary motorcade, it was the presidential convoy, an emblem of the nation's strength and unity. At the center of the column rolled the president's car, a shining beacon of authority, heavily guarded, and resplendent in its polished armor. Inside, President Ibrahim Traoré, clad in immaculate traditional robes adorned with subtle symbols of his heritage, pored over an important dossier. His eyes, intent and unswerving, moved over each document until he looked up and addressed his assistant in a measured tone. "We must reach the capital within 2 hours. This meeting is not only pivotal for our future, but it is the culmination of years of hard work for our country. I cannot risk being delayed." "Yes, Your Excellency," the assistant replied promptly, aware of the gravity of every moment. The driver pressed the accelerator, and the engines roared in unison. The road was clear, a ribbon of possibility, and the journey was smooth. The armed guards in the escort vehicles sat upright and vigilant, their eyes scanning the endless highway, every muscle prepared for any sign of danger. In that routine harmony of power and precision, everything seemed under control, until an unexpected disruption shattered the quiet order. Out of the margins of the roadside, a small, almost imperceptible figure emerged from the dense bushes and stepped boldly into the center of the lane. The sudden appearance of the child was like a stone cast into a placid pond, ripples of alarm spread immediately through the convoy. "Hey! What's that?" one of the guards shouted, his voice echoing in the morning air. In an instant, the driver slammed on the brakes. The tires squealed as they fought against the momentum. The presidential car came to a sudden halt, mere meters from the intruder. Dust and debris danced in the air, swirling around the immobile vehicle as the tension mounted. Doors burst open. Guards leaped from the vehicles with weapons drawn, their movements sharp and deliberate. They surrounded the lone figure, eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and preparedness. "It's a girl," one of them exclaimed, his tone a blend of shock and concern. The child, who could have been no older than 5, stood quietly on that dusty road. Her dress was ragged and torn, her small bare feet kicked up specks of dirt, and her hair, unkempt and darkened by dust, framed a face that was both sorrowful and determined. Her eyes, however, shone brightly, a piercing clarity that seemed to cut through the confusion around her. "Get out of the way. This is the president's convoy." "Do you want to die?" the driver shouted, his tone edged with panic and authority. But the little girl did not move. In a voice that was both calm and firm beyond her years, she stated simply, "I need to speak to the president. It is urgent." For a moment, time seemed to slow as the guards exchanged perplexed glances. One of them, clearly impatient, barked, "Child, we don't have time for this. You must move now." Yet she stood her ground, resolute in her purpose. "You cannot pass," she said slowly, "please, wait here." Inside the presidential car, President Traoré's curiosity won over his irritation. He stepped out of his vehicle, his eyes narrowing in both disbelief and intrigue, and was quickly followed by his assistant. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his deep, resonant voice cutting through the murmurs of his entourage. The girl, without hesitation, pointed directly at him. "You," she said. "I am here for you." "Me?" the president repeated, caught off guard. "Yes," she confirmed, nodding decisively. "You must not continue on this road. Please wait here for 2 hours." A ripple of disbelief ran through the convoy. Almost immediately, one of the guards scoffed, "You want the president of an entire nation to wait 2 hours because a child said so?" Laughter and incredulous remarks broke the tense silence. But the girl's expression remained unmoved, her gaze unwavering as she repeated, "Please wait. If you continue now, you will not come back." The president's face hardened into a mask of stern resolve. "Little one," he replied, "I have respect for children's innocence, but this is far beyond ordinary mischief. I have dreamed of this meeting for years, a meeting that could transform our nation's destiny. I cannot halt my journey for what appears to be a mere dream." Yet, before he could dismiss her entirely, she fixed him with an intense stare. "A goat does not run in the daylight without reason. I am not angry or jesting, I warn you that danger lies ahead. If you proceed now, you may never return." At that moment, the air was thick with tension. Guards moved as if to seize her, but something in her unwavering calm forced them to hesitate. The president himself paused, sensing that the child's words resonated with a deeper truth. As he turned to return to his car, she raised her voice once more. "I saw it in my dream, a great conflagration, vehicles engulfed in flames, screams of terror, and you in the midst of it all. If you move forward now, death awaits you." Her words, laden with both a mystical warning and raw emotion, chilled the hearts of those present. The president's resolute expression faltered for a split second, and his eyes searched hers for any sign of deceit. Instead, he found only tears glistening with both fear and purpose. He slowly walked back to her, bending down to her level, his voice now softer yet filled with earnest inquiry. "What is your name, child?" With a hint of sorrow in her whisper, she replied, "My name is Hope. I have no father or mother. I sleep beneath the old tree by the weathered well. But I was given this dream, and I had to stop you." For a long moment, President Traoré looked into her eyes, a gaze that seemed to transcend the trivial boundaries of age and rank. He saw in her the deep quiet of conviction, as if destiny itself had spoken through her. Rising slowly, he turned to his guards and spoke with decisive authority, "Cancel the journey. We wait here, for 2 hours. Sir." The guards murmured, their voices a mix of astonishment and uncertainty. "I said, we wait," he repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Thus, on that dusty, sunlit road, the destiny of an entire nation was momentarily suspended by the plea of a barefoot, humble girl. The convoy came to a standstill under the sprawling canopy of ancient trees. The gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds were the only sounds that accompanied the sudden quiet. Inside his vehicle, the president sat in contemplative silence, peering out at the immobilized motorcade. "I must be mad," he murmured softly to himself, "yet something deep within tells me she is not mistaken." Time crept slowly by. 30 minutes later, with the sun climbing higher and its heat intensifying, the silence was broken by the ringing of the president's phone, a call from the international business team, a reminder of the stakes that hung in the balance. His assistant picked up hastily. "Mr. President." "They are calling again," came the anxious report. Gripping the receiver, the president answered, "Hello." A crisp, foreign voice responded urgently, "Your Excellency, are you still en route? This delay is becoming unacceptable. If you do not arrive within 90 minutes, we shall have no choice but to award the multi-billion-dollar contract to another African nation." A shadow of anger flashed over the president's face as he replied, "I am only briefly delayed, I assure you, I am coming." "You have 60 minutes, the voice snapped before hanging up abruptly. The tension within the convoy grew palpably. Several guards clustered around him, voices rising in concern. "Sir, could this be a ruse? An ambush perhaps? What if this child was sent by your adversaries to delay your departure?" one guard wondered aloud. Another added, "This is dangerous. You are the president, you must not allow a child's whim to dictate the course of state." Fueled by frustration and the pressure of a nation's future, President Traoré strode purposefully toward the girl, who now sat calmly on a large stone by the roadside, her gaze fixed on the vast sky above. "Enough," he bellowed. "I demand that we leave this place immediately." Hope, with an almost serene composure, rose slowly. "Please, wait," she said again, her tone steady despite the rising clamor around her. Wait, he shouted back, incredulous and enraged. You have no authority to stop me. You're a mere child, how dare you try to command a nation's leader? Who do you think you are? For a heartbeat, the entire scene fell into a frozen silence. The guards, the assistant, even the distant birds seemed to pause in unison. The president's voice dropped, heavy with both anger and regret. I blame myself for ever listening to you, he said bitterly. I am a man of power and great wisdom, yet I allowed myself to be swayed by a mere dream. Hope's eyes shone steadily as she stepped closer, her voice soft yet carrying an undeniable clarity. Even a lion pauses when the antelope refuses to run. Her words, simple yet profound, sent a ripple of stunned silence through the convoy. What do you mean? The president asked, his voice low and uncertain. Stepping forward, the little girl continued, you are the lion, strong, revered, and feared. Yet danger does not always announce itself with a roar. Sometimes, danger comes quietly, like an antelope that stays rooted to the ground. And when the lion strikes without caution, it falls into a trap. The president's heart pounded as he absorbed her words. A guard gasped audibly, another whispered, this girl, she is no ordinary child. Looking into her eyes once more, the president's tone softened with introspection. If you were lying, why would you risk everything to stand here in the unyielding sun without any comfort, without food or shoes? What do you truly want? She lowered her gaze, her small voice steady despite the pain evident in her eyes. If I were lying, I would not endure this hardship. I have nothing but a warning, a plea from a dream that must be heeded. Moved beyond measure by her sincerity and the stark reality of her words, President Traoré slowly stepped back, his inner turmoil evident in the lines of his face. Finally, he pronounced, we will wait. Full stop. No one dared protest. The guards dispersed, taking strategic positions around the vehicles. Some sought shelter beneath the trees, others remained alert, eyes fixed on the enigmatic girl whose words had stalled an entire presidential journey. Murmurs circulated in hushed tones about the strange power of a child's parables, a power that, today, outweighed even military might. Inside the president's vehicle, he sank back into his seat, his face etched with worry and contemplation, watching as the minutes ticked by. Time, once taken for granted, now seemed to stretch interminably. Then, unexpectedly, another call came through. The assistant answered, his voice trembling as he spoke. Sir, it's the National Emergency Team. Put it on speaker, the president ordered. A voice, laden with panic and heartbreak, came through the receiver. Your Excellency, there has been a terrible catastrophe, just 40 minutes ahead on your route. A fuel tanker lost control and exploded. The ensuing inferno engulfed over 40 vehicles, cars, buses, motorcycles, all trapped in a merciless blaze. I'm sorry to report, there were no survivors. A heavy silence fell over the entourage. The words seemed to reverberate through the still air, each one a grim toll of a fate narrowly averted. Repeat that, the president demanded, his voice strained. There were no survivors, sir. Not a single life was spared. The incident occurred about an hour ago. Exactly when you would have passed that stretch of road, came the final, somber report. Guards exchanged looks of disbelief. One dropped his weapon, overwhelmed, another began to cry openly. The entire convoy was gripped by a profound sorrow as reality sank in. Slowly, President Traoré stepped out of his vehicle, his legs trembling under the weight of his realization. With deliberate steps, he made his way to the little girl, who continued to sit on the stone as if time itself had stopped. He knelt before her, a symbolic act that dwarfed the usual pomp and circumstance of state affairs. You saved my life, he whispered, voice trembling with gratitude and regret. Hope met his gaze, her expression gentle yet resolute. It was not merely me, it was the dream I received. The warning was given to protect you. Shaking his head as tears threatened to spill over, the president replied, you could have hidden, you could have turned away. But you stood before me, unafraid of the mighty and powerful, to speak what needed to be heard. I was afraid, too, she admitted softly, but I was more afraid of the consequences if I kept silent. Taking her small, trembling hand into his own, President Traoré declared with a mix of emotion and newfound wisdom, "From this day forward, your name shall not only be Hope, it will be my hope, the beacon for Burkina Faso. You have saved not just me, but all of us." Slowly, the convoy began to move again, but the departure was subdued, the pace measured, as each soldier, driver, and aide absorbed the significance of the moment. Hope remained by the president's side, a silent guardian of the nation's destiny. Upon reaching the presidential villa, the usual bustle of staff and protocol was replaced by stunned silence as officials and guards witnessed the sight of a barefoot child holding the hand of their leader. Questions remained unspoken in the air. Inside, the president summoned an emergency meeting of his top advisors, security chiefs, and media personnel in the Grand Hall. "This is not about politics," he began, his tone both resolute and sorrowful. "This is about life. Today, on a quiet road beneath these trees, I was almost led into disaster by a single, brave voice." He recounted the entire ordeal, from the unexpected interruption by a small figure to the dire warning, the delay, and ultimately the catastrophic accident that was narrowly avoided. "Had we pressed on," he said, voice thick with emotion, "we would have lost everything. The dream saved us all." Then, turning towards Hope, he pronounced, "She is no longer an orphan. She is now my daughter. From this moment on, she will live in this palace. I will ensure that she is educated, protected, and given every opportunity to grow, because she represents the hope that saved the nation." A wave of cheers and tearful emotions swept through the room. Hope, overwhelmed by the kindness and acceptance, shed quiet tears. For the first time, she was not alone, she was now part of something much larger than herself. The very next day, President Traoré addressed the nation via live broadcast. On television screens from the smallest village to the largest city, his solemn yet hopeful story was recounted. Citizens gathered in markets, schools, and homes. The country wept and celebrated simultaneously, a collective embrace of the miracle that had unfolded on that quiet road. From that day forward, every citizen would remember the girl's words. Even a lion pauses when the antelope refuses to run. A great man who ignores a small warning becomes the loudest cry in the graveyard. Hope's new life began. She was given new clothes, a proper education, and the constant care and love of those who now recognized her as a national treasure. And when asked how she came to be known as the president's daughter, she would smile gently and reply, "I only spoke what I saw in my dream." Moral: no voice is too small to change the course of destiny. No warning is too insignificant when it comes from the heart. No leader is too powerful to heed the gentle truths whispered by those who care. Sometimes, true greatness lies not in unyielding authority, but in the quiet courage to listen. Dear viewers, if you found inspiration in this story, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another powerful narrative. Thank you for watching, and may hope continue to light our way.